Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I am the king of excellent wallpaper. Anyway, coming up today, we're going to talk about Eva Marie potentially returning to WWE, although it obviously didn't happen as part of the draft. And on top of that, I'm going to talk about the two WWE wrestlers that are free agents after going undrafted.
Plus, I'm going to tell you about all the big names that switched brands on last night's WWE draft, and the tag team titles changed hands, but not in the way you might think last night. This is the news.
Well, let's kick things off by talking about Eva Marie. The story actually broke yesterday, but we haven't talked about it on video yet. But she's probably coming back to WWE, and that is kind of weird. The story was originally broken by Cultaholic, stating that not only was Eva Marie coming back to WWE, but she was in Orlando, Florida right now. I say right now, at the time of reporting, yesterday, undergoing medical testing. There was talk, rumors, innuendo, all of that stuff that Eva Marie could end up featuring on Raw as part of the WWE draft, although that obviously didn't happen. PW Insider have another report here stating that Eva Marie was actually signed by WWE, re-signed by WWE in September, though they just hadn't put together anything yet regarding a proper televised comeback. There's currently no word on whether or not she'll be an in-ring performer or just an on-air personality, but for all intents and purposes, it seems very much like Eva Marie is coming back to WWE, which has provoked a very interesting reaction online, to say the very least. A lot of people were absolutely fuming about this, because Eva Marie, during her time in WWE, was not the most universally popular figure, I think it's fair to say. But WWE, I think to their credit, right, in her last few years in the company, I would argue that she was very well used. Because what they did with Eva Marie was they used her as like this ultimate troll figure. They recognized that fans really hated her because of a perceived lack of skill or whatever, and they used that to generate anxiety that she was going to beat their favorites. Remember when she eliminated Asuka from that Battle Royal in NXT? Remember when she had the program with Bayley where the whole theme was, oh no, she's going to win the title, Eva Marie's going to beat one of my favorites, it's going to be terrible. And then of course she came up to the main roster, they did the fanning around with the ring entrances, and she's here but she's not really here, and she's gonna have a match but she's not really gonna have a match. Then she violated the wellness policy or whatever, was suspended, disappeared, and was eventually released. But I like the way they used Eva Marie the last time around, and I think if you use her as a troll once again to make people mad online and get worked without even realizing they're getting worked. Always allow yourself to get worked, by the way. If you're not, what's the point in wrestling? I think this could be a good move, man. I think it could be fun.
I mean, you say use her to work the fans. They already have. Look at the reaction online. Jesus, that yesterday was just a flame war online, wasn't it, with that? And it's just
People
done
are
anything yet. Give her a chance.
People are nuts. People are nuts.
Like you say, I'm just intrigued to see what WWE does with this. I'm always worried about saying, "Oh, just go back to the old gimmick," but I really liked that gimmick before with that epic voiceover, and then saying, "Oh, she's had car trouble," or "Oh, wardrobe malfunction," or whatever. Or keep that going for me. Keep that going until crowds come back. It'd be so good. And I can't remember who I saw tweeting about this morning. It might have been someone like Sean Ross Sapp. Someone was tweeting saying, don't have her wrestle into the Royal Rumble, and then the moment she actually gets in, he goes, right, time to wrestle straight over the top rope. It's just a beautiful little bit of writing. Then you can actually transition her into an actual storyline. But yeah, I don't understand the whole no reaction to this. Just chill out.
Relax. Let yourself get worked. Let yourself get trolled, man. If you're above getting worked, what's the point in watching pro wrestling?
Yeah, look, these things happen. And, it's not like WWE anymore to taunt you with the possibility of someone taking the title off you love with the person taking it off them being really crap. Anyway, best luck to Lana in her title match next week on Monday Night Raw. Let's move on and talk about the big draft picks, though. Some big names switching brands. We had The Fiend and Alexa Bliss. They turned up and attacked Andrade and Zelina Vega. They are now on Monday Night Raw, as is Braun Strowman, as is Jeff Hardy, in fact. Who else switched brands? Matt Riddle also moved to Monday Night Raw. Elias returned and is on Monday Night Raw as well. Lacey Evans, Sheamus, Nikki Cross. The list goes on and on. On the SmackDown side of things, as I will get into in due course, at the time, Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, have been drafted to the blue brand alongside Kevin Owens, Lars Sullivan, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, and Apollo Crews, and Natalya, and Aleister Black. But more importantly than all that, Titus O'Neil drafted. Andrade not drafted. Before we get on to the Andrade thing, which I know you're going to get into, Andy, what do you reckon some of these switches?
A pretty decent draft, I think, as far as like big names moving goes. I think when you have a draft like this, you want to see major players switching brands. You don't want it to just be all mid-carders and so forth. We've had a couple of drafts like that in the past, so I think it was a pretty even draft. It's very hard for me to look at these talent pools and go, yeah, that side definitely won. Although you can debate the merits of various people. You can talk about Bray Wyatt going one way and Seth the Chef Rollins going the other way till the cows come home. I think I was pretty satisfied with it as a whole. I hate the New Day being split up, but that's a different topic for a different day. Just an inconceivable decision to me, but hey, here we are. I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, you know what you need to go and do, Andy, is you need to go and find out the podcast that me and Michael Hamflett did yesterday on why the New Day splitting isn't a bad thing. That's a good thing. Honestly, this Hamflett's way of explaining all this and the detail that we go into, it will change your mind on this, trust me. I think my biggest issue with this draft, because like you say, some big names are moved. It's got me intrigued about what they're going to do next with, The Fiend, for example, on Monday Night Raw, or Seth Rollins on SmackDown. My big issue here is the fact that they've just cut entire storylines and shifted them from brands. Yeah. I was like, initially, great, Seth Rollins is on SmackDown. Right, that's done and dusted. The Mysterios and Murphy have gone with him. And then they've done the exact same thing. Kevin Owens on SmackDown. Cool, okay, a little bit different, all right. What's that? Aleister Black's on SmackDown as well. Oh, bollocks. I thought they finished that off with a really good no DQ match last night, but yeah, that's my big issue with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a season premiere next week or this week or whenever the hell it was. I've totally forgotten. And yet we're going to see storylines that started in the previous season continue. Strange situation, but I digress. We're going to talk about the wrestlers who went undrafted now. Not talking about the Becky Lynches of the world who weren't in the draft pool because they're absent or whatever. But coming out of last night's Raw and Raw Talk, on which there were a bunch of other draft picks, there were 6 wrestlers who didn't find a home after that. 4 of those have since found that home. Zelina Vega, Tamina, Billie Kay, they're going to SmackDown to bolster that women's division. And Eric, who is injured, he's just had surgery, removing some hardware from his arm. He's staying on Raw, which means the 2 biggest names from that original group of 6 are still undrafted. Andrade and Mickie James. Mickie James, who was wrestling for the Raw Women's title the other week and is now homeless. It's an interesting situation. Andrade was on the show last night. Him and Zelina Vega were apparently back together after splitting up. Weird. But they got beaten up by The Fiend and Alexa Bliss after Andrade had lost to Angel Garza. Mickie James is off TV. She's got a broken nose. She's recovering. Might be a few weeks before we see her again. Free agents can negotiate, can go wherever the hell they want. I suspect Andrade's going to end up in NXT. Maybe they'll do the same with Mickie as kind of like a veteran Vanguard presence as well. But strange couple of people to have floating around, isn't it?
Right, this is going to sound really harsh on Arturo Huas. I love Arturo Huas. I'm excited to see what they do with him. He's done some great stuff in Raw Underground so far. But I wouldn't pick him ahead of a former women's champion and a former NXT and, I believe, United States champion. What are you thinking? Insane. Although, I will caveat this with, yes, if this is a way to get Andrade away from all the main roster bollocks and back to where he was just mint, absolutely. Because I think he was a first-round draft pick last year, and now look at him.
Sure he was, yeah.
Ridiculous. Mickie James, again, I've said it was insane that Mickie James didn't get the title shot at, Clash of Champions or whatever, because it was just like a weird 2-week build for Zelina Vega when who was, fine. But why wouldn't you just say, here's a former women's champion who Asuka has wrestled in the past. There's some great story there. Nah, just blow that off on TV. What's the point? It's madness. And am I right in thinking, just to clarify for those who are unsure following SmackDown, the people like Shorty G who weren't undrafted, who went undrafted on Friday, they've been assigned brands now. So it's literally just Andrade and Mickie James, basically. Yeah.
Shorty G is staying on SmackDown, and the Lucha House Party, Lindsay Dorado and Gran Metalik, the King of the Ropes, they're going to Raw So there we go.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah, let's talk about the tag titles. They changed hands last night, but not in the way you would think. It was simply an exchange of tag titles. Of course, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions moved to Raw, them being Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and that's a good thing. Check out the podcast, WhatCulture Wrestling, to find out why. Meanwhile, the Street Profits were drafted to SmackDown, and so just to make things so much easier, they exchanged tag titles. So now the Street Profits are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The New Day are the Raw Tag Team Champions, and the New Day defended their Tag Team Championships against Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, who then got drafted to SmackDown on last night's show. Are you still with me?
Vaguely, briefly, yeah, kind of. What a weird thing.
Mad.
What a way to make your... I mean, we're running out of time for stories here, but what a terrible way to tell the audience that your tag team titles mean absolutely nothing. As if it wasn't already clear.
So confusing. Anyway, let's get on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us on Twitter. Jake starts us off saying, with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on the same show again, would you like their first storyline together to be a feud or a partnership?
I really loved the heel partnership that they had going on before they were eventually separated again. I thought that was great stuff. But, it's been a while since we've seen them go at each other in a proper feud. And I think I like this version of Kevin Owens. He gets his ass kicked a little bit too much for my liking, but I'd like to see them run off each other in a feud again. I think that'd be really cool. It's been a while as well, so it's kind of fresh.
Plus, I just popped into my head, Kevin Owens versus the Tribal Chief. Oh!
There you go,
that
baby.
Could be good. I think Kevin Owens tweeted a message he got from Sami as well last night. Double check that. But I'm excited to see what they do together. I'd like to see more of a partnership for a while at least. And look at Sami's face with that when they drafted him, and and all the people who've been annoying him, Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles, have gone to Raw. Get in. Right, second question today comes from Christian Poderiu, who says, as AEW like to surprise, do you think Omega versus Hangman will be in the first round of the 8-man tournament?
Yeah, I think the odds of it going in the first round are just as high as they are. I think they're equal to them happening in the final. It's definitely something they would do, and it's a good story for Page to come back if he gets knocked out in the very first round of the tag team tournament. That is, there's no shame in losing to a guy like Kenny Omega, his former partner, of course, but that is an even bigger hurdle to overcome than falling at the final peg, I think. So, yeah, I could absolutely see them doing it, and you know what? I might lean in favour of them doing that as opposed to doing it in the final.
Yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't put it past them. And I do like Michael Sidgwick's booking of the Young Bucks costing Hangman in that match. Just as a little bit of payback for what happened before. Final question today. Nick T sends us one, and his new puppy isn't available, but imagine a pic of it. Nick T says, should WWE have the women's division and tag team division on separate shows? Instead of having two thin rosters, especially the tag teams, you can have larger rosters on each show. Can you see this working?
I would prefer to see them just as they are right now. I mean, I don't like the idea of marginalizing one of these divisions by only making them available on one show, because it's not really going to result in increased airtime for either of them, I don't think. Even if you have like a whole roster on one show. I think the solution to all of this, I think the women's divisions are pretty decent. I think they're pretty well stocked, right? They're reasonably deep. And that will improve as time passes on, because there's just a horde of people who are really talented waiting to come out of NXT. The solution in the tag division is really simple. Both divisions are really thin, but that's because these dumbasses keep splitting tag teams up for no reason. So stop doing that, and I think things would be a lot healthier.
And unify the tag titles, because you don't need to.
Go across the shows, like the women's tag team titles.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, that's the way you solve that. I don't think you need to put the women's on a single show, without question. I think there's so many talented people in that division. All right, let's move on to today's and finally. And I saw this at the top of Squared Circle and knew you'd love it, Andy Murray. This is a post by HairGrow763i38 on Squared Circle. It's entitled Balding Superstars of WWE. Says, good afternoon. My name is Saif. I'm 29 years old and I'm mildly balding. Since I began to bald, I pay much attention to the hairline of WWE male superstars. Please share which WWE superstars are balding. And he's given a list. Number 1, Otis has progressed balding. Bray Wyatt, also balding. Braun Strowman, severe balding before he shaved his head. Drew McIntyre, mild balding of the temples. Sasha Banks seems to have slight female hairline recession. Big E seems to have hairline recession. Sami Zayn has thinning hair. Who else? God bless my friends. English is not my native tongue. This is my first WWE post. Enjoy. And it's the top of Squared Circle. Andy, help Saif out. Add to this list, and then you need to do the top 10 on this channel.
No and no. I respect all my wrestlers out there. My wrestlers, they belong to me. I respect everyone going through the sheer torment of losing one's hair, but look, things become immediately easier when you address the problem directly and shave it off. It's no longer a burden. Do the thing, guys. You will feel a lot better for it.
Yeah, I think I'm heading that way. I can just see the widow's peak starting up
The
here.
peak.
I'll just. Oh god, I'll brush it forward a bit. Anyway, Ryan, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. For daily wrestling podcasts, myself and Michael Hamflett reviewing Monday Night Raw a little bit later on today. Plus, let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And whilst you're there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday, everyone's favourite bin man, Duke the Dumpster Drozy.
Legend. Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.